Well, good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be back. George Morgan here at your service. It's PSGL, it's Wednesday night, it's Spain tonight as well. Lots on the table, lots of battling. The title contest is still alive and kicking. And Jack, it's only taken us 10 rounds. We're on the 11th. It's all to play for.
Bahrain goes on the inside and takes the lead on the final lap of the race. Now it's side by side between Borman and Warner, but Borman's got the inside.
A guest star here in this phenomenal race. Cameron Dowd looking to take P2 in his very first PSGL F1 PC race. Incredible to say the least. You see there, Putin to lead. 1.5 seconds. DRS is the name.
Chilling, pretty much. Yeah, I'm all chill. I'm happy to be here. Of course, normally I'm commentating over PlayStation, but today taking over the role of George for the PC F3 race, and I'm looking forward to it. Very tense grid, stacked, and everything can still happen. It's only round 2 of the championship, so I'm looking forward to it.
Oh no, I'm so sorry. I've been. Oh, that's way too loud. Oh no, right, let me start again. I'm so sorry. I just completely messed everything up. Um, we'll go from the beginning again. Oh, that's the wrong one. Right, welcome to PSGL F3 Season 34 Round 2. Tonight is Bahrain. Very sorry about those technical issues, but I'm just going to start everything again. So we are in Bahrain this evening. We had a lovely round last week in Brazil to open the season off. Drake Dempsey winning from P12, which was such a great race to commentate over. So I'm really excited for Bahrain. It is one of those tracks. You get lots of good fights there. We've seen it in 2014. In the Jewel of the Desert. Was that 2014 or 2016? I can't remember. I get them mixed up. We had the battle in 2022 with Leclerc and Verstappen. So it's definitely one of those races that can provide good racing, and you know, it's rightly made itself the current season opener. Has lots of lots of DRS zones. There's 3 DRS zones, which all provide overtaking opportunities. Most of them will be in the first and second DRS zone. The first one especially with the heavy braking zone into turn 1. But if you don't want to make your move there, you have a lovely run in the second DRS zone to try and make your move into turn 4. There's a good mix of slow and fast corners, which is what you want to see in a track. Lots of places where drivers might try and go side by side and not be able to. Some places where they might be able to, and it works and gives us a great move. But we are ready for qualifying now, so we'll go into the game. And just before we do have our initial lap starting, we'll just have a look at the standings at the moment. So Drake Dempsey does lead at the moment. As I said, a lovely drive last week in Brazil. One of those, Cameron Dowds, got quite unlucky at the end with the strategy. He was running in the podium positions, but did drop down, unfortunately. Is he even on the standings? Am I missing him? Yeah, sorry, yeah, he's in P19. So he's got 12. I don't know what that's about. But anyway, so... oh, it's the positions. Sorry, ignore me. Yeah, so there is the current standings at the moment. Mercedes leading it at the moment, and Drake Dempsey leading the driver's standings. So obviously, it is the first round. There's not too much to go off of in terms of the entire season, but we've definitely seen some quick drives, some quick drivers, especially Cypher last week getting pole position by almost half a tenth, which, you know, at this level of racing is quite a lot. I'll stop talking now, Thyman. If you wanna have a look at the drivers on the track at the moment, not too many laps starting at the moment.
Most of the drivers already getting out right now. Ignore the fact that it says Q1 on the bottom on the top left of your screen. We are doing a short qualifying session that contains of 18 minutes. And Jane Tripkov, the Thomas Enger Esports driver, will be the first person to set a lap time. So we will be going on board with him to see if he can have a really good banker lap time here, because it's always nice to set a good banker lap time. The sun being a little bit annoying in the final corner, but you're getting a good exit as possible. Really ride the curb there on the exit, opening the DRS to start the hot lap right there. It's a long straight, and like Alex said beforehand, this is the place where you can overtake. You're on a break here. On the perfect point. You don't want to overshoot it, because it would ruin your exit for turn 2, 3, and there's a bit of a straight afterwards with a DRS zone. So if you ruin your exit in turn 1, you're going to be losing a lot of time all the way up towards turn number 4. After turn 4, overtaking wise, it is a bit more chill, but the technical section comes in here, right here. It's at 28.455 for Jane Tripkov in the first sector. Just want to keep it as tidy and as close as possible. This is really the acceleration zones which are important here. Then over towards turn 9 and turn 10, probably the most difficult corners here. Don't be surprised if you get sent up the inside here. It's a beautiful corner for a surprise overtake, and we have all seen it before. Now coming on the third DRS straight here, want to brake right when on one of the blue strips. Don't exactly know which ones. That's why I'm a commentator and not a driver. Now here you want to keep it as close to the right hand side as possible. I'm going to see the second sector split here. It's a 6.231. So it's looking like a solid lap so far from Jane Tripkov. Definitely the banker lap that he is looking for. Now coming up towards the last corner again. This is a turn where you want to get as good as an exit as possible, as Louis Welsh does retire from the session earlier on. And he's also actually left the session. So that might be something to watch out for. Jane Tripkov coming towards the line, and on my screen there's no lap time.
Yeah, not sure what that's about. That is quite worrying. We're watching the F3 chat just to make sure. I don't know if anything has happened.
I think they are restarting because of the
session time. So it was supposed to be set to midnight.
Session timer, yep.
And that is why we might be having a restart. So
I'm fairly confident that there will be a restart indeed. Connor not agreeing with that decision, but it's already been made.
Having a restart. So we'll cut to a quick break, and we'll join you. Oh my goodness, we'll join you as soon as that's been done. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we are back for qualifying in Bahrain. If you are just joining us or have joined us during this short break, this is F3. We had to do a quick lobby restart due to some time of day issues, and you know, they affect all sorts of stuff like track temperature. Even if it's not that little, it does still have an effect, so maybe it was entirely necessary. So we are going to have all our laps done again. Which is great. Well, it wasn't too far into the session. It was only like a few minutes, so I think only a few people had actually done laps, if any. So it's not the end of the world, but we do have a few cars coming out.
Only Jane Tripkov at that point had done his lap time, but with the sun being there, the track temperature being higher, you needed to change somewhat of the tire temperatures if that was the case, or at least I presume so. I think the drivers would know it a lot better than we do. Sketchy, meanwhile, retiring. He does have a qualifying ban, so that is the reason that he has decided to DNF it in the pit lane. Hope that he saved this setup all well. He did not risk an outlap to fully confirm it. But those are the risks that he is taking, and that is fully up towards his own. You can see the drivers brake dragging, trying to get the tires up to temperature here, which isn't the biggest of struggles around Bahrain. Many opportunities to just slowly press the brake in and just fully accelerate. Besides that, doesn't really get you any tire wear extra, and it does give you tires that are nice on temperature. And it seems like Bogdan Molovan will be the first driver to set or to start his lap time. The ET8 driver who's been setting promising steps forwards, and meanwhile Thomas Laminen has joined the session. But Alex, take it away.
Yeah, of course. Just a quick note about Cypher's qualifying ban. That was for an impeding on qualifying last week, cost someone a lap. So just an unfortunate thing that happens, and he's quite rightly serving his qualifying ban. But here we go. Bogdan Moldovan going for his first qualifying lap. Well, the first qualifying lap of this new session, braking hardly into turn 1. Bahrain is a track where you have to trail brake on almost every corner. If you don't know what that is, it's essentially when you're going into a corner, starting off quite hard braking and then slowly lifting off the brakes as you're going through the corner, as opposed to just going off and on. Coming around turn 4, getting a nice exit, using all of the curb, all of the off-road on the exit before getting it rotated into the short S section. Into the hairpin, I believe it's turn 8. Slightly missing the apex there. I think he locked up the rears very slightly there before going up the hill and then down the hill to turn 9 and 10. As you said before, Thyman, the most difficult corners on the circuit, and he does go a little bit wide, but it's so easy to lock up there. So definitely keep your eye out for drivers locking up there, because that's just what happens when you're having to brake while turning. So all the lines that you're going to see taking a wee as trying to brake as much in a straight line as possible. Coming up towards turn 12. Not the worst lap time so far. I think it definitely is one that can be improved on before going to the apex of turn 13, I think, before heading down into, I think that is turn 13, and these last two, you can see there's a little kink. So we're going to turn 14 here, and then there's a slight kink in the circuit here, which is turn 15. That's to avoid any confusion. Coming up to the line, DRS is open, crosses line. It's a 27.8. And Harlan Markey is immediately setting a 28.2. Drake Dempsey, the winner from last week, sets a 27.6. A few more drivers coming across the line. Karafalidis setting a 27.8. Jane Tripkov setting a 27.7. I believe Jack Humphrey's about to cross the line, or he's going to set a 127.827. A few more drivers as well, all coming steadily behind them. We'll cover those as they cross it. I believe the other Aston Martin, Declan Barrett, setting a provisional pole time there of a 27.5, so a very quick lap from him in respect to everyone else. Liam Stevens goes P5, Franek Morawiak goes P4. I believe there's a Mercedes just crossed the line and a Red Bull about to cross the line, although that might be for starting a lap. But that is the first round of laps. You see everyone else is still within the first sector, so definitely not the closest that we've seen. Last race, I think we saw a lot more of a closer grid, but I think that's expected. You know, we've had delays, we've had the quality restart, and it is only their first laps of qualifying, so it's definitely not everything to go off of just yet. But a good lap time for Declan Barrett to set him in that provisional pole position.
Yeah, it's a solid lap time from the Paradox Sim Racing driver. I think the PSR boys Wilson Hall in this case has invalidated and Sketcher who had in quali ban. But I think these PSR boys, those three, are definitely someone to keep an eye out for during this season, especially Declan Barrett. He's proven himself worthy very early on in this season, currently the fastest as well. And he's just been performing a lot quicker. These boys obviously coming from Xbox and this being one of their first seasons. Someone else who's really been proving himself is TF10 Louis Welsh. Of course, the bad goat himself. He's absolutely still grinding. We are changing the audio settings. So I am actually on board with Alex for this stream. So we see the same POV. It's something that we are experiencing today. So that is why we, in that case, saw the same screen. But Louis Welsh on his lap time currently here going through turn 4. Want to keep it tight here. And if Louis Welsh is still on the pad, which I believe he is, he will absolutely be liking the first two tracks, Brazil and Bahrain, which are bad haven't pretty much. You just need China to be the third track on the calendar. And then Louis Welsh can pretty much just quit the season afterwards because he has had his tracks. But Louis proving himself that he's an absolute veteran of the scene. He's been in PSGL for many, many years, and it doesn't look like that will be changing anytime soon. Meanwhile, coming off the third DRS straight, coming into the two corners where you need as much momentum as possible. Riding the curb on the right hand side, a lot of confidence in the setup. It's a 6-0, which is also a purple middle sector split. He already went purple in sector 1. Of course, I do not know if these are visual glitches or not, because I did not really look at the sector times from what Declan drove. But coming towards the final two corners, technically, but we all know it's just one corner. Louis Welsh going towards the line, and will he go quickest? No, he will be going third, but still a very good lap time from the TF10 guy.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be quite happy with that, especially as it's only a first lap, so a nice lap to put him among the top few guys. In the meantime, Thomas, I've completely forgotten the last name, but coming through the last couple of corners, Thomas Laminen, that's it. If the game is to be believed, that is a purple middle sector, which is a really strong showing. So we'll see if that's worth anything in terms of his lap time. Is he going to be able to challenge for those top positions? He's going to come across the line, and it's not far off. Within 3/10 of P1, but it is only a P6 with a 1 minute 27.8 flat. So yeah, that is certainly not a bad lap time, definitely a good base to go off of. In the meantime, we do have our next rounds of drivers coming out of the pit lane to start the next laps.
Yeah, it's somewhat worth it, and you do have the opportunity to go out of sync here, which Louis and Thomas have done. Thomas doing it because he later on joined this session, but Louis doing it maybe just because he had the opportunity to do so. Only doing 3 runs here gives you plenty of time to go for it, and the next couple of runs are already starting because Miltos Karafolidis, I think that's how you pronounce the last name. I've been in the esports team with him, and I still do not know. But he will be the next person to start his lap time, and he is an absolutely promising youngster in this scene, being an F3, and he will really have to prove himself this season to really make that step up. But personally, I do believe that he is one of the persons that you also want to watch out for in this season. Of course, you need to watch out for pretty much everyone, because this is a step up to an eventual F2 seat, and if you perform there, you can join maybe even the big dogs in PSGL F1, which is every single one of these drivers their goal. But currently on board with the McLaren, Miltos Karafolidis, absolutely pushing to perfection, want to get as close to that white line as possible, but just about not drive off, because we all know how shitty the invalidation sometimes can get here, and that is one of them. Just narrowly off, and it's immediately an invalidation, and there goes the lap time from Miltos Karafolidis.
Yeah, we'll go along with Cameron Dowes, I believe is just starting his lap time. So coming across turn 1, getting the power down for trying to make it flat out turn 2 and 3. Before heading towards turn 4, again a heavy braking zone. You want to use all of the track on the exit, all of the off-road on the exit as well, just to maximise those 300ths, those few thousandths of a second. And you can see he's done there, going 16 thousandths up on his sector 1 split. Again, using all of the track, you see them snaking around the track to follow the racing line. So doing that really well there. Again, using all of the track on the entry to turn 9 and 10 before I assume we'll see using all of the curb on the exit as well. Getting a lovely run towards this uphill section. The alternate start finish straight before hooking it into turn 11. Getting the power down, trying to use all the track as possible, using all of the tyre grip as possible, going slightly over the curb for turn 12 but not overdoing it. He has gone 2/10 up, which he's going to want to do because he's only in P13 at the moment. It says he's done a purple sector 2 as well, so hopefully that's to be believed. As he comes around the final couple of corners there, it's really important not to go on that inside curb. And then again, it's really important to use all the curb on the exit. So he opens up the DRS, and it's good enough for P5. So, not the fastest lap we've seen so far, but to be fair. Oh, never mind, Nelson Elves doing a 1:27.493 to go P1 in Lewis Hamilton's Mercedes. Yeah, stunning lap time. That's immediately beaten by Declan Barrett by about half a tenth even. So that's, again, a really good lap time from him. Someone else moved up there. I didn't quite see who it was, so very sorry. But I mean, I was about to say I didn't think that the first lap could maybe even be beaten, to be honest. But no, Declan Barrett and Nelson Alves, two very close lap times and about a tenth quicker than Drake Dempsey there. So almost a quite big gap. I'll put that on leader to get a good perspective of that. You can see there, it's over a tenth difference between the two Mercedes, second and third. So yeah, I mean, great lap from Declan and Nelson Alves.
Liam Stevens there making a big jump upwards. He gets into fourth, and Jack Humphreys, another Parnell driver, getting himself up into fifth place. Primoz Mitrovic also getting himself one lap time in. He slots, oh, it was Wilson. No, I'm pretty sure it was Primoz. He slots himself into P16. A little bit colorblind, guys. You have to accept me for that. Tuomas Laminen going for another lap time here, because I hope for him a 2-minute something lap time is not a competitive one at all. And besides that, it's a lot of people who've either already done their lap times or aborted early and want to go again. For that, you can see a lot of yellow flags, which means that these are drivers who are brake dragging, warming up their tires, and probably going either soon, or other drivers who have run out of fuel and are absolutely just crawling back into the pit lane. And because of all these yellow flags, we cannot actually see what the session time is, but it is 5 minutes and 9 seconds. It just popped up there. So I do believe that most drivers will be heading into the pit lane, probably including Dax, who you see here on the screen. Unless he really peaks right now, I do believe he will be entering the pit lane as well.
Yeah, we'll see as he's coming towards the Sector 2 split. I don't think he's backed out of his lap so far, so I'm hoping that he does complete it, purely for our entertainment. But then, obviously, that does run the risk of not having time when the track is fully finalised. Louis Welsh goes P1 with a 1:27.426. So an absolutely stunning lap time from him. Thomas Laminen is currently a 10th down, so I do expect we'll see him putting into the pits at the end of this lap. But Louis Welsh with a lovely lap time there. To go into provisionally P1. We're going to have our drivers putting into the pits and then starting their final round of laps. But yeah, a very strong lap time there for Louis Welsh. Whether he'll have time to go for another lap, I don't know. He'll have to keep the ERS on and race to the pits, but from the way he's driving, it does look like that is definitely his aim. Thomas Laminen did pull into the pits. He did decide that there was no point staying out. In the meantime, we do have Benny Fabus as well in front of Louis Welsh. Going to get out the way because I think Louis Welsh does want to race to try and get into the pit lane as quick as possible. But in the meantime, Benny Fabus even, I'm not 100% sure of the pronunciation, but Benny Fabus is going to go for his lap out of sync of everyone else. So he won't have the maximised track evolution, but he will have a clean lap with no traffic, which is very important because traffic can really get the better of you in a lot of circuits. I think it's exactly too bad around Bahrain, but you never really want to have that risk in the first place. So, we'll go on board with Benny Fabus as he starts his final lap, unless he's going for 2 out laps, but we'll see. Oh, you know what? He might be going for 2 out laps, or is he coming into the pits?
He's in.
Oh, that surprised me. I'm not sure why he did that, but I guess he wants to go late. Go for it. We do have an Aston Martin coming out the pits. That's not Declan Barrett, that is Jack Humphreys. if it wants to show us his camera, which would be great, because he is out the pit lane. I don't know why we're still seeing into the pits. There we go.
I think we are both wrong on how to pronounce Benny, his surname. Of course, he is Hungarian, and we are both not fluent speakers of the Hungarian language. So I think you probably pronounce it a little bit differently. Just like all the Portuguese players, all those football players, they do have different pronunciations that we Europeans, or, I mean, Portugal's still Europe, but you understand what I mean. We don't know how to pronounce them properly. But let's just get back to racing and stop talking about football and different nationalities and languages. Jack Humphreys, the Parnell driver, next up, probably to start his lap time. I doubt he will be taken on his outlap. All of the other cars will be out ahead of him, but he might be able to, or might unfortunately, catch some traffic towards the end of the lap. But this will be going incredibly quick. All drivers will be coming like a bullet train back after each other, just constantly setting lap times. And Louis Welsh and Benny have both made the cut-off period. They're both out of the pit lane in time, both as the last two though. But they have made it, and you can still see one dot in the pit lane. But don't you worry, that is Sketcher, who has a qualifying ban to serve.
Yeah, so just someone asking in the chat. That is a qualifying ban, as you just said. Scyther, which is a shame because he got pole position last week, so it would have been nice to see what he did this week. But unfortunately, rules are rules, and we have to stick by that. But Jack Humphreys starting his final lap of this qualifying session. He is about 3/10 away from P1, so he needs some storm of an improvement if he wants to challenge for those top positions. But now is the time for him to do that lap as he goes into turn 1, gets the car rotated, but he does lock up the rears a little bit. I think I heard that a little bit, but he does hit the apex still. So I think what happens as well, you get the sound of people locking up their rears. That is just people pushing to the absolute limit. But once again, getting the inside curb, using all of the track on the exit. We'll see the sector 1 split as he comes across it. He is currently a 10th.5 up, so forget whatever I said, because apparently that was a storm of a first couple corners. It's exactly what he needed. Slightly missing the apex of turn 8, I believe that is, but something that you might have just seen on your screen. Nelson Alves, 5-place grid penalty for illegal blocking. I'm sure that's a mistake, but that is a heartbreak if that stands, as he is currently in P3. But in the meantime, Jack Humphreys getting the car exited from turn 10 into turn 11, hooking it around as we've got another retirement. I'm not sure if that's a crash or just a retirement, but it does look like he's still in the circuit, so it might be. But Jack Humphreys, only 6,000s up on his time, so he's clearly lost quite a lot there, and he's not going to be improving too much. But then again, he's got 3,000s to the guy behind him, so any improvement could potentially be useful. Coming around the final corner, getting the power down, not using as much of the track as we've seen other drivers use, but the DRS is going to open up, and he is going to cross the line, and it's a half a tenth improvement, and it does move him up a few positions. I believe we have Jaden Tripkov coming across the line to finish his flying lap. We'll see, can he do anything to challenge the top times? No, he can't. He stays P8 as that Declan Barrett. Declan Barrett has had a very strong qualifying session so far. Can he still pole position? Yes, he can, with a 27.317. The only man who can challenge that is potentially Liam Stevens, who goes P2 with a 27.386. Louis Welsh is still on his lap, so we'll see what he does as he crosses the line. Drake Dempsey decides he can't improve anymore, so we're really watching Nelson Alves and Louis Welsh here. Obviously, we don't know if that 5-place grid penalty is going to stick, but he does go wide, and that's going to completely ruin his lap. Very unfortunate for Nelson Alves, but Louis Welsh still on his lap. Can he do anything to take the pole position away from Declan Barrett, or is Declan Barrett going to take pole position here in Bahrain? He's going to come around the final corner. He's got to get this right, but he doesn't. He goes wide, and that has potentially cost him. It has cost him, and that lap is going to be invalid. So no matter what he would have set, that is going to be pole position for Declan Barrett. Andre Lopez, oh my goodness, it's a voice crack and a half. Andre Lopez is still going to finish his lap, but he is way down on his time. He's doing 2 minutes. So that is going to be your qualifying order. A lovely pole position there by Declan Barrett, followed by Liam Stevens, a surprise entry up at the end there. Louis Welsh only manages to get 3rd at the end after invalidating his lap. Nelson Alves gets 4th. Cameron Dowd gets P5. Drake Dempsey P6. Thomas Lamine in P7. Jack Humphreys P8. Andre Lopez P9. James Tripkov rounds up your top 10. Moldovan is 11th, Morawiecki 12th, Hall 13th, Karafalidis 14th, Fabos 15th, Miklevich, I'm going to hope that's the pronunciation, is P16, Marquis P17, and Scyther with a qualifying ban will be starting P18.
Feeling that there's a very possible chance that we will be getting a restart though because of that unfair penalty handed out towards I've lost his name now, Nelson Alves, of course the Mercedes driver who put himself up in P4, would otherwise be losing 5 positions. I am unsure if that restart will be happening. We've seen it before, and I'm somewhat checking
restart.
There will be a restart.
Another one.
So
but yeah, there is your qualifying order. As I said, Declan Barrett gets pole position, followed by Liam Stevens and Louis Welsh. So, talk me through. What are your thoughts after that?
I think it's a promising qualifying session with multiple people peaking at some points. I find it interesting that Drake Dempsey, who did bin his car on the final corner, is still in 6th place. So I think we should expect some good things from him during the race itself. We saw Primoz crash as well on the final lap. Just all the drivers going all out for this. But I think we should always have an interesting race here and a few drivers. The top 6 is within 3/10 of each other. So I think it should be a very close and enjoyable race. It's pretty much always top 12 is also within half a second of each other. So they're all promising signs looking towards the race. But the race will be taking a little bit to start because there will indeed be a safe or like a lobby restart. Because we indeed see the clip now where there is an unfair penalty handed out on the hot lap.
Yeah.
So we will be right back to you guys. There'll be another quick restart, and then we will be all ready and set to go for the race without any breaks afterwards.
Yeah, shouldn't take too long. One thing I do want to touch on though, just before we briefly leave you, is I think it's interesting to see how many people are potentially out of position. So we don't know how much Louis Welsh was up. We don't know if Nelson Alves was up at all. Was it Nelson Alves or Jake Dempsey even? Sorry, the Mercedes who messed up the last corner. So if those guys are potentially lower than where they're supposed to be, and I'm sure that happened in other positions down the grid as well, mistakes can so easily be made. It's interesting to see, how much can these guys have an impact on the race after potentially being, out of where they need to be.
I think it's always interesting to see because a lot of drivers can make moves up and down the field, and with the strategies being so different this game, I think a lot can happen. And especially once you're out of position, it will be interesting to see if you're actually going to be able to take a gamble that will be worth it to make up these positions. Maybe it will be an early pit stop because we have seen it in the past before how strong that undercut can be. But we've also seen that tire wear is more playing a bigger factor than ever. So the undercut might be worth it in the short stage. But if you look at a longer period, an undercut will definitely not be worth it. Maybe especially as at a track as Bahrain, where you can survive yourself on the long straights, but have to burn ERS to get there. And once you have to save up more ERS, it will be in the technical corners, where the people with better tires around you have so much more grip and will be able to have it so much easier when trying to overtake. So that's one of the reasons why I love Bahrain. It's quick, but it also has its slow sections. It's good for overtaking. So I think we should have an absolutely amazing race.
Yeah, I completely agree. The lobby is getting set up now, so we will be back very shortly. for the race. Sorry about the lack of music there. As I said in the chat, I don't know if you saw. Don't have it downloaded. That's completely my mistake. But not the end of the world. I'm sure silence is just as comforting. We will be getting away very shortly here. As the drivers just doing their setups. Got to make sure they do that, obviously, with a lobby restart. Very easy to forget. But yeah, so going into the race, definitely very excited. Bahrain is such a good track to watch racing, and we will see. The 5 red lights will come on at any point, because obviously they don't give us a countdown anymore.
They have to choose their tyre allocations. Yeah. So it will be taking a little bit tyre allocations, setups, strategies, thinking about what they're doing. They've probably all prepared it with their race engineer, but there's no formation lap. So as soon as this screen switches, we will be ready for the 5 red lights, and then it will be all set to go. All 19 drivers will then be storming up towards turn 1, and it will be a question who will be coming out.
Here we go. We do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. And it is going to be lights out, and away we go for Bahrain. Declan Barrett getting the better start than Liam Stevens there, going into turn 1. Louis Welsh as well, beating Liam Stevens on the start. He's going to have to try and send it around the outside, which he does very well there. Watch out for collisions in the back of the grid, as it's really tight going towards turn 1. But Liam Stevens, he's already lost a position, and it looks like he's going to be vulnerable to potentially 2 others, as Nelson Alves and Cameron Dowds behind him go side by side. At the moment, Liam Stevens is comfortable for now, but Nelson Alves still fighting with Cameron Dowds for P4 at the moment, going side by side into the turn 5-6 section. And I believe Cameron Dowds is going to be on head of track there, but there is a Mercedes getting pushed off, and in the meantime, the other one, Drake Dempsey, trying to go for it, but Cameron Dowds is going around the outside of turn 8 as we go up the hill towards the tricky turn 9-10. Surely Nelson Alves is going to have to concede position, and he does. So that is Cameron Dowds into P4 for now. There is a Ferrari, I believe it's Andre Lopez going off in the background there. So a relatively clean start there. A few drivers getting pushed slightly, but no spins or crashes or anything like that. So I think we should take that as an absolute win. Further back down,
still a lot of drivers.
So go for it.
You go.
I was going to say,
yeah, a lot of drivers still going side by side at that moment of time. A lot of pushing, a lot going back and forth. It's a good moment now to somewhat look at the tires to see what everyone has. But by the looks of it, most of the guys do have those hard tires. Andres Lopez and Harlan Marquez both on the soft compound of tires, so they will be looking to do a different strategy. Everyone else will be looking to either do a hard medium or hard softs. Unless there will be a late safety car, then that strategy will be mixed all over up again. Andres Lopez getting that overtake done there on Nelson Alves. Just easy overtake on the softs, and Andres Lopez really needs to capitalize on it right now whilst he has these fresh soft tires. Harlan Marquez also looking to make an overtake in the background, also on the McLaren of Miltos Karafolidis, going around the outside there on those soft tires, really making those work. And those two drivers will be the ones making all the moves in the earlier phases. Not as entertaining as tire strategy wise we have seen in PSGL F1. It's a send up the inside there by Cypher. Great attempt at least. Miltos Karafolidis around the outside, able to keep up more momentum and save his P14 position. Look up the inside from Harlan Marquez up ahead, up the inside of Wilson Hall. I said it earlier in qualifying. Expect a send there, and it did happen. Andres Lopez also getting past Cameron Dowds further up the field here, but Wilson Hall losing 2 positions for 1 most likely on this straight here, because Miltos Karafolidis also going for it, still side by side through this long right-hander, keeping it all clean, all tight, and still having to go around the outside Miltos. But now he has to surely forfeit this position. A little bit of barging on the wheels there, but that is all settled up now, and Wilson Hall has retaken the position of Miltos Karafolidis. The fastest lap meanwhile by Andres Lopez, still pushing. He overtakes his teammate right there. Some team orders most likely given out up front for the 3rd position, and he is absolutely flying. I think it will be of beneficial for the whole grid pretty much if he gets in the lead, because the pace will be slowed down a little bit then once those soft tires get a little bit worse. But for now, it's still a fight between the top guys Declan Barrett in the lead, Louis Welsh in second, and Andres Lopez in third.
Yeah, so a very good start for the soft compound runner of Andre Lopez. The Harlem Marquis also making up positions there. It's all about what these drivers can do on these soft tyres before they die. There should be a significant tyre advantage on those soft tyres. Potentially though, if they want to try and make a soft hard or a soft medium work, which we saw last week, I'm not sure if Bahrain is going to be able to do that because I think it is quite a high tyre wear track. But then again, so is Brazil, so we'll see what happens. But it depends what sort of strategy they're going for as to how they're going to drive. It's a very Will Buxton kind of quote there, but it is applicable. Obviously, if they want to go along with these tyres, they don't want to abuse them too much. So in the meantime, Andre Lopez does sit P3. Declan Barrett is your race leader at the moment in the Aston Martin, followed closely by Louis Welsh, followed by Andre Lopez, Liam Stevens, Cameron Dowds is your top 5. It is still one group, just a DRS train. As you see, there is a bit of a gap between, I think that's Harlem Marquis and Bogdan Moldovan there, but I think that's because actually it wouldn't have been an overtaking. It's just a natural gap forming. So he's got to really just start trying using those soft tyres. But in the meantime, at the front, we do have a battle for the lead. I think that was an attempt by Louis Welsh. Sorry, I missed that. But Louis Welsh does look like he might still be coming to try and take the lead. And he is going to pull out and go down the inside of Declan Barrett in turn 4 to try and get the lead. Declan Barrett tries to hold it around the outside, but in doing so has made himself vulnerable to Andre Lopez, who is going to be able to capitalise on that and go down the inside of turn 5 and 6 and inherit P2. So that's 2 positions in one sector that Declan Barrett has lost. So very unfortunate for him, but at the moment I think that's pretty much expected when Andre Lopez is on the soft tyres and there's natural changes in the lead as we go in this race anyway. So where you want to be, obviously at the moment doesn't really matter too much. There's a Red Bull going wide in the background there. Obviously, because if you're in a DRS train, it's about whether you can move up or down. And when you're late in the later stages of the race, you obviously want to be in P2 to try and capitalise on that. But at the moment, Louis Welsh decided he wants to take the lead, followed by Andre Lopez as he made that position earlier on in the lap. But a very clean move by those two, Louis Welsh and Andre Lopez, and Declan Barrett now in P3.
Yeah, Andres Lopez will be looking for this lap right now to make his move towards the lead within 0.3 of a second of Louis Welsh up ahead. His ERS is fairly drained, though, as you can see on the steering wheel, but with the DRS it should be enough to right now be gaining and gaining. Will he be going for the move up the inside right here? He looks at it, but he's not going for it yet. Louis Welsh slightly missing the apex here, but I think Andres Lopez could even also be happy to stick it in P2 and just stick with the leading DRS train runners and save his soft tires a little bit. You don't want to scrub it off all that much. He's already spent 4 laps on those soft tires, and it won't be doing him any favors if he is now going to have to push all the way at the front of the field, because he won't be able to create a gap that's larger than 1 second on those soft compound of tires. So it is all still very close. We saw Thomas Laminen going a bit wide earlier on at this exact point of the lap. Drake Dempsey was able to capitalize on it and make that move stick. It was fairly big of a gap, around 0.8 of a second, but Drake Dempsey seemingly had no problem at all closing that gap down, and it's now right back towards 0.3 of a second. The biggest gap that we currently have is still Harlem Marquis on those soft tires. He really seems to be struggling a little bit on those softs to try and keep up the pace. Harlem was dead last in qualifying as well. Does not seem to have the pace. Even on these soft tires, he's now already falling outside of the 1 second range. Has to burn his ERS and now gap back in. But this is not what you want to do on soft tires at this stage in the race.
Yeah, definitely not what he wanted. We saw him, I don't want to say slow, but potentially a bit off the pace as he's in qualifying, and he's now susceptible to an overtake from Wilson Hall, who gets into P12. So the soft tire advantage really not working. But up ahead, Declan Barrett is trying to overtake Andre Lopez, but Andre Lopez is not going to make it easy as he pushes him really closely on the inside. Declan does still have the DRS though, and looks like he's going to be able to try and get this position. Obviously they're both at DRS because they're behind Louis Welsh, but he does send it down the inside of turn 4, and that is going to be a position for Declan Barrett. So very impressive when you think about the fact that Andre Lopez is on soft tires, so maybe he's not pushing as much. Or as he actually makes a mistake, Andre Lopez there, losing the car a little bit, so maybe those soft tires are starting to drop off and he's not able to utilize them exactly as he'd like to. So it is currently Louis Welsh from Declan Barrett from the two Ferraris of Andre Lopez and Liam Stevens. Remember, these guys are teammates, so there is a constructors battle. If these guys are potentially fighting, they could also potentially work together, as Liam Stevens has a little look, but doesn't go for a move past his teammate.
Originally worked together, Liam Stevens allowing Andres Lopez to get past up ahead, so he was able to capitalize more on those soft tires. Was there's a bird outside of my window? I don't know if you guys heard that. I hope not. Liam Stevens, so he wants that position back now probably because Andres Lopez is starting to struggle on those soft tires. Same thing as what was happening to Harlem Marquis, who has also lost the position to Miltos Karavalidis in the meantime. Miltos having to push to remain in the DRS train, but there goes Liam Stevens back past his Ferrari teammate. There's no real fighting in between those two guys, and now it's more of a question of how long are these guys wanting to stick out on those soft tires, and the fact that these tires are not lasting for that long does not make it appetizing for hard runners to pit on a set of soft tires later on in their race. It could be a risk for some guys that are a little bit further back, but it's not ideal. Harlem Marquis fully dropped back down now. He is at a moment of his own, and he is all the way back down at P17 currently. Benny Fabels there also dropping back down to P18. Maybe it was Benny Fabels there saying he was sorry and giving him the position back, but both of those drivers dropping back quite a few positions. Fortunately, it was not at the front and a little bit more at the back. But they are both now outside of this long DRS train, which is everyone in this grid involved besides the final two guys.
Oh, Andre Lopez going wide on turn 10 there. He is really struggling on those soft tyres and is going to be susceptible to an overtake from Cameron Dowes. Cameron Dowes trying to look around the outside, but turn 11 is really not the place to overtake. It is a high-speed corner, so unless you're fully alongside, it's unlikely that you're going to be seeing overtakes be done just there. But going into turn 13, he's going to want to be following very closely to the back of Andre Lopez to try and get this move done as soon as possible. There's a 7/10 gap between Andre Lopez and Liam Stevens, so he does not want that to grow any further, because if Cameron Dowes wants to have a shot at this podium, he's got to be in that gap, and we are going to see him looking at a move. He's got the battery switched on, he's got the DRS open, and he is going to get passed on the straight. Not really much that Andre Lopez can do apart from concede the position, because the straight line speed just isn't there. Harlem Marquis, I believe, is about to retire from this race. So yeah, very unfortunate for him. Just didn't get the strategy to work, didn't get the tyres to work, didn't get the pace to work. But that is going to be the end of his race. Nelson Alves looks like he's going to send it down the inside of Andre Lopez, and he does that quite well. He did a move last lap on his teammate, the exact same place, and done it very nicely. But Andre Lopez is fighting around the outside, so those soft tyres still showing they have a little bit of life, but they don't have enough life, as he does have to concede the position, and that's Andre Lopez down into P6. And Drake Dempsey is also going to want to be looking to overtake Andre Lopez as quick as possible. Those soft tyres clearly showing that they are just not there anymore, so maybe potentially we'll see Andre Lopez into the pits not too far from now. We'll have a look at the position change, actually. So Andre Lopez currently making up 3 positions, so he's had a good start. The soft tyres have been useful. It's just whether he can then keep that advantage that he's gained from the strategy. Definitely something for him to think about in terms of when he's going to pit. So I mean, we'll see, is it potentially going to be this lap? Because if he can also stay in the DRS train just enough, that's also a massive help. Like this going to be later on in the race, but although when he's on the hard tyres, it's going to be also difficult. So it's a tricky situation, because obviously he's not going to be able to fight for the lead and actually make a gap. And obviously if he's going to get overtaken by Drake Dempsey into turn 1, I don't think that'll be a difficult overtake. I don't think there's really much that he'll be able to do, but he does hook it around the outside, and you know what, he does actually keep the position, so fair enough to him. But what I'm saying is, if he's on the hard tyres and everyone else is on the mediums or the softs, he's going to find it difficult to overtake within the train. So it's a strategy where I think it's more all or nothing, and he's potentially lost all here. So we'll see. Maybe I'm expecting the worst, being a bit of a pessimist, but Drake Dempsey does have a look down the inside, not able to make the move, but he is having a look, showing that he's there. He's at the back of the gearbox, you know, he's waiting. As soon as Andre Lopez makes a mistake, that position is his. Simon.
I don't even think Andres Lopez needs to make a mistake. The grip difference now is really there, like we previously mentioned. But Andres Lopez, he just has to survive until he is able to make his pit stop towards the medium set of tires. He will not be making a pit stop towards the hard. That strategy would not be ideal. But I think Andres Lopez will be either pitting this lap or the next one. With my limited knowledge on strategy yet on this game. But I do believe that the pit stop strategy period is either this lap or the next one. But you can just see Andres Lopez, he's not having the same pace anymore. Although this lap, he has shown some really decent pace, maybe burn a little bit more. In this lap, he is continuing. Meanwhile, Thomas Liminen again going wide. I've seen him go wide like 4 times already this race, and we're only on lap 10. So he might be having some problems with the rear end of his car. Maybe his car does not like the higher fuel. There's a rear lock of Andres Lopez, putting him under that pressure, like you said, that one mistake that he has to make, and there is Drake Dempsey now. Oh, he is also on limited ERS, but this will be just an easy DRS overtake. Still side by side, on the fresher tires, should be able to outbrake him around the outside, and then go earlier on the throttle, and then have it right here. Although it is a lot closer than I expected it to be. Drake Dempsey having to go all the way around the outside now, but it turns into the inside here, and that is indeed a position gain from Drake Dempsey, but he does go too wide and back around the outside now, going Andres Lopez, trying to go for it again, but the grip is just not there in that Ferrari. But it does mean that the DRS is lost, and that is somewhat what Andres Lopez likes to do, because he has helped out his teammate a lot now, and it is a 1.5 seconds gap in the DRS range, so these top 5 drivers will now have to work together to make sure that the other guys do not catch back up to them. And if they can keep that gap, they at least are guaranteed a good position, a good result. But that was just way too deep there by Jane Trepkov. Tried to go and try to take advantage of the opportunity, but it just broke too late and hit the side of, I believe it was the car of Drake Dempsey. And now he has lost a few more positions. Andres Lopez again also dropping back very far. I believe that he must have gotten wing damage from that. Otherwise, there's no real reason for him to back off. And I think we will be able to see our second retirement right here. I don't see any visual damage on his car, but again, he's going wide right here, entering the pit lane right now. And I think this will be our second exit of this race. Indeed, he retires from the session in the pit lane. So we are now only down to 16 drivers.
Yeah, very unfortunate there. I think that was just a bit too much of a send by Jane Trepkov there. And I mean, the strategy wasn't looking good for Andre Lopez, but points were still potentially on the board. Just wasn't able to utilize, just wasn't able to reach them and get them. Meanwhile, Thomas Laminen, I don't know if you saw, but had a lovely move on Andre Lopez. Andre Lopez make a mistake coming out of, I think it was turn 8, and he just managed to get the position very nicely there. But you are right, Drake Dempsey is now out of DRS. So Andre Lopez's teammate Liam Stevens has gone from having about 15 competitors to having about 2 to challenge for that P3 position. In the meantime, we don't have any more soft tyre runners on the grid, so we're not going to have any different strategies. So it is neutralised in that sense, and it's just about what drivers have the pace to do what. But Drake Dempsey is going to struggle without the DRS, I think. He's definitely going to struggle to catch up to his teammate again, so he's now definitely looking at defending P6 rather than fighting for P5. So, go on there.
Meanwhile, Benny Fabel's the first driver to pick up a penalty. 3 seconds, multiple warnings for him, but he is fully at the back with Jane Trepkov. 4.5 seconds off this DRS train, and even the biggest of undercuts won't really help them there. So these two drivers just need to hope for a miracle, and that miracle is called a safety car. Jane Trepkov in the pit lane already, so he will be the first driver to go for the undercut on the mediums, or he will be DNFing. But I think he is actually continuing. So props to him for not giving up so easily. He will be going for the mediums. He will be attempting that crazy undercut like we mentioned previously. And he just needs to accelerate now to hopefully get back in the leading train. That is what Jane Trepkov's only goal is right now. But he ideally would like a safety car later on in the race. No one there on that trade, of course. And he's like nearly half a lap backwards now. So it's a big gap that he has to see, around 5 seconds to get back in the train. And it will be interesting to see who of the main DRS train will be responding. Of course, still the top 5 are gone compared to the others. Like Dempsey unable to really reel that gap back in. The gap is now 1.9 seconds, as it was 1.5 seconds previously. but the pace difference is not as big as we were expecting. Declan Barrett, though, keeping a good pace level right there, working together with Louis Welsh a little bit, not fighting each other all too much because they both want that good result. But let's now keep the pit lane entry a little bit in mind. Will any people be responding to the undercut of Jane Tripkov, or will people just pit already for their own strategy? The top 5 will all be remaining out. But if we scroll back down a little bit more, it could be interesting. Because actually, let's stay on top, because maybe Louis Welsh was going for the lead, but it does not seem
not
like
quite.
It. No, he's sticking
Bogdan Moldovan does come into the pits. I think it's nice what you say about Jane Tripkov, not backing down, not giving up on this race, despite despite the mistake earlier on. But Bogdan Moldovan does pit, potentially to cover off Jane Tripkov, potentially just it being the strategy. Someone who I think we should talk about is Scyther. He's sitting in P10 as well. Starting P18. It's a good recovery drive so far. So yeah, I mean, that's definitely something to keep in mind. We know he is a quick driver, and we know he's out of position. So really trying to do the last to first potentially. Although I think that's going to be a lot more easier said than done for Scyther. But he is in P10 at the moment, so definitely making up some good ground. In the meantime, the top guys potentially looking to pit soon, so that's definitely something to keep in mind. As you said earlier, the undercut is exceptionally powerful on this game, so we'll see what these drivers do as we're coming around the last sector, we're coming around the last few corners. We'll see what these guys are looking to do. Obviously, we don't know exactly when the pit strategy is, but two of the rear end runners have boxed for their medium tyres. There's about 16 laps left to do on those tyres, so the hards can definitely go a bit longer. But we're not going to have a move. It looked like Declan Barrett might be coming in there, but no, not quite yet. Did I see someone in the pit lane? I did. Drake Dempsey coming in to take off those hard tyres there. Nearly going into the barrier then on the pit entry. Almost a bit like he's on streams now. Boxing for these medium tyres. Going to exit the pit lane on them. Now, this is the time to see, has he made the right strategy call pitting this early? Those mediums, they might be quick now. They might give him the undercut, but later on, they're going to be absolute hell. And is that Bogdan Moldovan? It is Bogdan Moldovan. Look how close he is to Drake Dempsey. So after only one lap on those medium tyres, he definitely looks like he's gained a significant amount. Because I don't think he was fighting for those positions before. I don't know exactly, but definitely looking like that undercut has already been exceptionally powerful. So Drake Dempsey on cold tyres potentially might have to fight here. Let's hope not, because that's going to cost them both time. So if Drake Dempsey, I mean, it's a good idea, I think, to pit, because he's, like a second away from the DRS of the other guys. If that undercut can make up that time, he's potentially back in the fight for the podium. So definitely something to look out for with Drake Dempsey. We'll have a look at the top guys. See if those guys are looking to pit to potentially cover off Drake Dempsey. I know he wasn't even in that train, but when the undercut is that powerful, it is definitely something that you have to keep in mind. At the moment, doesn't look like anyone's going to pit apart from Liam Stevens, who does choose now is the time. So this undercut could be exceptionally powerful. First and second have not pit. If he can nail this outlap, he could really be looking at potentially inheriting the lead of the race. As well. Did Nelson Alves pit as well? Nelson Alves did pit. I didn't quite see that. But Nelson Alves, I think, yeah, he was right behind Liam Stevens. So he's responding to that. And those guys, if they can just not mess this up. And Thomas Laminen as well, actually. And Jack Humphreys and Miltos Karafalidis boxing as well. So, I mean, you can see now Drake Dempsey already going to be fighting Bogdan Moldovan, but more importantly, is going to be fighting for these positions now. And the two Mercedes going side by side as they exit the pits. Well, as one of them exits the pits, Drake Dempsey is going to be ahead. I don't think Nelson Alves is going to fight that because obviously he's on cold tyres, but look what that shows. Look what that shows, how powerful the undercut is. Moldovan and Dempsey now in the same fight as the ones of the leaders. So, if you ever want an example of how powerful the undercut is in this game, here it is. Use this.
And it is the undercut that some drivers needed. Drake Dempsey, being 1.9 seconds outside of the leading DRS train at first, is now fully back in because Liam Stevens, the third driver from the DRS train, to make a pit stop. Will be interesting to see though where the likes of Cameron Dowds will be ending up, because Nelson Alves also in that train. He is 2 positions behind Liam Stevens and 1 extra lap on that undercut. I have a feeling that Cameron Dowds will be ending up fully behind this train of which is at the end of Nelson Alves. So I think he will be fully behind them. Declan Barrett, meanwhile, is in the pit lane. He will be responding to that. I think he will be coming right out in the middle of this train. So it will be interesting to see where he ends up. Louis Welsh and Cameron Dowds taking the route of the longer tires and better tire wear at the end of the race. Cypher, Wilson Holm, Primoz Miklovic and Benny Fabos also taking that route. Those are the 6 drivers that have yet to come in. Coming out of the pit lane exit now, and it seems like he's just about ahead, but it will be very close, trying to go around the outside. There's Liam Stevens on the older tires. Declan Barrett cannot really do a lot about it, and Liam Stevens takes home that 6th or 7th place for now. Bogdan Moldovan trying to profit as well, trying to go around the outside here of the Aston Martin, and he does actually successfully do it. So Declan Barrett going, oh, he's still actually up there. I thought that move was already sealed, and there it is. It is actually sealed. Declan Barrett now having to warm up his tires, and I hope that Drake Dempsey doesn't send it up the inside on this corner here, which we have seen Drake do before, and it is a very good overtaking opportunity, but he does not do it. Drake, though, yeah, I think he is maybe even the biggest loser so far from this pit stop period, because he lost that position to Bogdan Moldovan and wasn't really able to gain as much as he wanted. But Declan Barrett, though, he is now in a position that he definitely did not want to be. And now the question goes, where will Louis Welsh and Cameron Dowds end up? Because they are now coming through the final corner. Will they be heading in towards the pit lane? Louis Welsh is staying out. Cameron Dowds should be staying out as well. They both are staying out, so they will definitely be playing the tire wear game, the long game, if you'd say it like that, which will be interesting to see later on. Liam Stevens, though, in the lead of the current people who have made that pit stop, and Cypher and Wilson Hall swapping around the 2 PSR boys, not fighting each other the absolute hardest, probably, but definitely no team orders.
Yeah, not at all. So, Louis Welsh deciding to stay out, deciding the undercut is not for him. He's having to overcut, obviously, when everyone else says pit. That's his only option. But I have to disagree with you. I don't think Drake Dempsey is the biggest loser of these pit stops. In fact, I think the fact that he's in the battle for the lead now is a massive gain. But I do think Bogdan Moldovan started P11 and is now in provisional P2. That is pretty astonishing when you think about it. So if he keep on with this pace, I think that's really strong for him. But additionally, if he can defend from Declan Barrett behind, who we know is quick, but Liam Stevens can get the gap to over a second, that is going to be really strong for Liam Stevens, and is really going to put him in the space to sort of control the rest of this race. We also got to think about Liam Stevens, though. When is he going to pit? When is Cameron Dowds going to pit? Those guys were in the battle for the podium positions, for maybe the race win, so it's definitely something that we've got to look to. We'll cut to these guys again as they head towards the pit entry, and now is going to be the time that Louis Welsh chooses to pit. Cameron Dowds has decided to stay out, really choosing that he wants to go for the overcut. So coming into the pit lane, he will be setting the fresh set of softs on. I believe that is Liam Stevens coming around the final corner now, so you can see the gap. If I will go on board with Liam Stevens just to show you, you can see on the mini-map in the bottom right what's going to happen. We'll see if Louis Welsh actually goes into the softs, because that's a good point someone just made in the chat. I didn't quite see it, but he's lost so many positions from this overcut. He is on the mediums, so he doesn't even have the tyre advantage, and you've got to wonder what went through his mind making that decision. I mean, it's the same with Cameron Dowds, still staying out. Cameron Dowds, I suspect, maybe going towards the soft tyres, although we only really saw them lasting 6 laps, so that really would surprise me. In the meantime, Liam Stevens is going to be ahead from Declan Barrett, so Declan Barrett did get past Moldovan for P7, provisionally P2. So yeah, I feel like Louis Welsh has kind of shot himself in the foot here. We'll go on to the tyre screen, because obviously, I mean, these guys are drivers, I'm only the commentator, I'm not the strategist. I don't know, I don't know what's going through their heads in terms of strategy. They're a lot smarter than me in this sense, so they probably have a plan. But I have to say, it is only about 3, 4, 5 at most in terms of Bogdan Moldovan tyre advantage. Those 4, 5 laps probably have quite a big difference. but when it's only 3 laps, it's difficult to see. I don't know how tyre wear is this game. Someone's in the chat, Tom Roberts, fresher tyres having a big effect in this game. That is potentially true. Obviously, again, I'm not too knowledgeable on the strategy in that sense, but it does seem maybe not the right decision. I'm not sure. Again, as I said, I'm not the engineer. I'm not any of that. Cameron Dowes is coming into the pits now to serve his pit stop for the mandatory tyre change. And obviously those hard tyres getting old. But he is also going to be at the end of this battle. So going from P5 to, what is that, P12, P13 potentially. So just left to pit is Benny Famos and Primoz Miklovic, the current first 2 runners. But I don't think those guys will be fighting for the podiums anytime soon, in this race at least. In the meantime, Benny Famos is currently holding up Declan Barrett. So Declan Barrett actually got past Liam Stevens. Very sorry, I missed that as Benny Famos gets out of the way for Declan Barrett, choosing he doesn't want to fight. Is he going to do the same with Liam? It looks like he is. I'm not even sure. No, he is letting them through. Those tyres clearly not working. He chooses there's no point defending. So Declan Barrett does inherit P2. Liam Stevens P3. Jake Dempsey went from being 2 seconds behind P5 to now being in P3 provisionally. So, a big gain for him. And a big game for Liam Stevens as well. I think he was in P3 before. Now he's in P2. So who was the top guys? It was Louis Welsh and Cameron Dowds. I think those two lost a lot of positions. But Drake Dempsey, Nelson Alves is now in provisionally P5. Also lost actually no, he was in P5 before, but he is going to try and go down the inside of Bogdan Moldovan, and he does there. He's got 2 lap fresher tyres, so those really showing that they might have an effect. In the meantime, though, there is your current race leader, provisionally at least, with Primoz Miklovic. Maybe just wanted to lead a lap, because he has decided to still stay out. So, we do have a new fight for the lead then, with Liam Stevens now in 2nd place and Drake Dempsey in 3rd. Drake Dempsey showing that he does know strategy last week, as I said, from P12 to P1, and I think that was purely to do with the strategy. He did the softer mediums, and really did that very well, so big props to him, and he's going to hope for another strong strategy this week. So yeah, Simon.
Yeah, I mean, the Benny Fabos there will let everyone back through on those hard tyres. They're in a very dangerous spot, and it meant that for a moment there was a split, there was a gap in the DRS train, which meant that Louis Welsh and Cameron Dowds were at the wrong side of the train, but it's currently not the case anymore because that got solved. Cameron Dowds is still without any DRS to help him out. He needs to gain 3/10 towards the rear end of Miltos Karofolidis, who also doesn't have DRS, to the guys up ahead of him. And Drake Dempsey is currently also on the verge of losing DRS. He is on 6 lap old mediums, and he is definitely not chilling. And that is mainly because Liam Stevens absolutely licking the back end of Declan Barrett's car. Of course, Declan Barrett in the lead here. Yeah, I think he's had one of the better strategies here. Otis Lawrence there teaching him well how to do a good strategy. But they are now having to overtake Primoz Miklovic, who has still stayed out. So he will be looking to pit towards the soft tyres. Declan Barrett indeed making that move into 1st place and trying to go around the outside is Primoz Miklovic still to defend somewhat, but Liam Stevens is easily able to profit from it and gain even more positions. I don't know why Primoz Miklovic is somewhat doing this. I would normally say because it is to help out his teammate, but Cypher is all the way down into P14 on 2 lap old mediums. So it doesn't look like that will be the case. Louis Welsh, meanwhile, making his way up towards P6, overtaking Tuomas Laminen with 8 more laps to go. Louis Welsh is looking to absolutely fly towards the front of the field. And Liam Stevens and Declan Barrett would love to break away from that DRS train currently, which I think is happening because Primoz Miklovic is going so slowly that he's absolutely held back Nelson Alves and Drake Dempsey. And I think that Nelson Alves again needs to close up towards a DRS point, and Declan Barrett and Liam Stevens will definitely put their foot down a little bit more and use a little bit more of that battery to hopefully for them keep themselves out of the DRS. And it's an absolute send by Louis Welsh there, but he still saves the car. As a result of that, Drake Dempsey had to go off a little bit, Louis Welsh wanting to go up the field as quickly as possible, but unable to really do so. Thomas Laminen still looking behind them to profit from the opportunity as well. But Primoz Mitrovic is still staying out. He is literally a moving traffic cone here. Up ahead, you see the flashing car. Louis Welsh wanting to make that move here, but it's not going to be making it really wide because Drake Dempsey firstly goes up the inside of Primoz Mitrovic. There's a little bit of contact between Louis Welsh and Primoz Mitrovic, and Primoz, as a result of that, has to go off track or through the grass. A slight bit of contact with massive consequences. We are not sure, so we're not looking into that as of right now. Louis Welsh, though, going up the inside of Drake Dempsey, making that move stick, and Louis Welsh now up towards 4th place, absolutely flying, but he sees that Nelson Alves up ahead does not have DRS to the front too, and that is not something that he wants to do. He needs to burn his ERS then to close that gap right back down, which is not something he will be looking towards. Cameron Dowds, meanwhile, making an overtake up the inside of Bogdan Moldovan in that tight corner in the middle sector. Cameron Dowds, though, on 3-lap old medium, still absolutely flying through the field, and next up for him is Thomas Laminen.
Yeah, so Louis Welsh, forget everything I just said about 5 minutes ago about shooting himself in the foot. If he can catch up to that DRS of the 1st and 2nd position, that is a massive gain for him, and clearly the tyre advantage is very significant, because he looks like he has so much pace. Obviously he's a quick driver as well, and the tyres helping him massively. So Louis Welsh, is he going to be able to fight for the win? That is definitely a question on his mind. He needs to get past Nelson Alves very quickly. If he wants to. In the background, I think Thomas Laminen went a bit wide there again, which you've seen quite a few times, but Louis Welsh is going to try and go down the inside, and he's done it before the braking zone. He's got into P3. So Liam Stevens is next. He's got 6/10 to try and get into the DRS gap, so he's got to maximise these tyres. It's quali lap after quali lap after quali lap he's going to want to do to just try and minimise that gap, and as I believe Benny Fabos has just retired from the session, unfortunate for him. But all eyes are going to be on Louis Welsh as we go towards these final few laps of this race. He's made about half a second, well, about a bit less than that, a few tenths in this first sector. So Louis Welsh definitely looking quick. I don't know if there's a thing on this game, but there seems to be fog everywhere, and I don't know if I've got the wrong graphics settings or whatever, but that is a really odd thing. EA, please fix that if they're watching it, which they definitely are. Anyway, Louis Welsh does have...
It could be the tire smoke.
It could be, but...
It could be the tire smoke from the cars that are coming off of that's creating somewhat of a fog, but I don't know. I don't really have any issues with it myself. Louis Welsh, though, is making grounds on that DRS train up ahead. 2 laps fresher tires towards Declan Barrett, who is leading the other DRS train. And it seems like not on this lap, but on the next lap, he will be able to get some DRS for himself. And I think Louis Welsh will be the main rival of Declan Barrett for this race. Liam Stevens, of course, will always be there, but I don't think he will be the main rival as of right now. Cameron Dowds also making that move now on Drake Dempsey for P5, and that Cameron Dowds, it will be interesting to see how far he can come up the road, because he's only on 5-lap old mediums as of right now. Compare that to the 9-lap old 9 and 8-lap old mediums from the 2 leaders. It is still an absolute massive difference, and he will be able to gain a lot of time towards them. Still, also no pits up from Primoz. I don't know what strategy he is on, but it does not seem to be working. He must be hoping for a safety car.
He just wants to get in the way.
I think he's hoping for a safety car.
Potentially.
It must be.
He's not in the points anymore, though, so it seems a bit not useless, but he's really just trying. He's just kind of being a spanner in the works for everyone. Which, I mean, fair enough. If you like drama, go for it. In the meantime, Louis Welsh is right on that 1 second gap. He is not far away from the DRS. He's got a 3-lap tyre advantage to Liam Stevens and a 2-lap tyre advantage to Declan Barrett as Nelson Alves having to defend from Cameron Dowds, and that is Cameron Dowds into P4. I said you don't overtake in turn 11. Cameron Dowds has said yes, you do. And he's got into P4, so a lovely move from him. And he is still in the DRS of Louis Welsh as well, so still in this battle for the podium positions. But Louis Welsh does look like he is within the second of Liam Stevens. We'll see if he's going to have the DRS this lap. If he does, this is massive. He's already got a pace advantage, and whatever he was losing from not having DRS, he has now got DRS. So Louis Welsh is straight back into this fight for the lead. We've got 5 laps to go, including this one. And Louis Welsh is looking very aggressive. In the meantime, though, Declan Barrett and Liam Stevens are also looking fast. You can't discredit those guys. Definitely quick drivers. And they also probably have batteries. Declan Barrett, over half of his battery. That's some great saving there. Liam Stevens, only about a quarter. And then Louis Welsh with a lot less than that, less than 10% left of his battery remaining. You can see on the steering wheel there. Cameron Dowds has dropped out of the DRS of Louis Welsh, so not able to stay within that second unless he can do it on the exit here, which, you know what, as I say that, it is hovering around a second, so I'm not sure exactly what it will be. I think it's just over a second as he comes across the DRS detection, and he's got no battery left to burn, so I think it'll be fully focused on defending. But you know what, he is still around there, so we won't keep too much of an eye on that because it is hovering at the moment. The main place where that really matters is the first and second DRS straight. So if he's got enough battery, he could potentially get that back. But in the meantime, Louis Welsh is within half a second of Liam Stevens. He is looking very quick and he's looking very aggressive, and he potentially can win this race if he can get past Liam Stevens quite quickly. He'll be in the controlling position, I think is what I'll call it. When you're in P2, in going into the last lap, that's when you can make the overtake. Especially in Bahrain, when you've got 2 consecutive DRS zones, it has such a big effect. But in the meantime, Louis Welsh is not going to be close enough yet, but he does send it down the inside of turn 1. And then there's Louis Welsh going side by side with Liam Stevens. A lovely move from so far back, and he's got into P2. A brilliant move. I think that's one of the best Bahrain moves I've seen, but Liam Stevens is trying to come back and he's not going to be able to do it. So from so far back, Louis Welsh has managed to send it down the inside of Liam Stevens and get into P2. A stunning move by him. Massive props to him. And he is now in the driving seat in terms of going for the win. He's got 2 laps fresher tyres than Declan Barrett. And it does seem like, you know, when he wants to, he can make that position. So great move there. And he's now into P2.
It's just incredible car control. He knew exactly when he was gonna break. His car was gonna stop. He knew exactly what to do in that situation. And Louis Welsh now just needs to save up ERS and play the game to eventually go for the win here, because Declan Barrett has probably known that Louis Welsh was going for a long time now, and he has most likely been saving up that ERS and knowing what to do eventually. And he has definitely not been pushing all out. And I think he will be expecting Louis Welsh to maybe even go for the lead already to try and drive away from that 1 second. And he just needs to anticipate on that and make sure he doesn't burn off anything and give himself the biggest chance possible. But for now on, we are keeping it onwards there. These drivers are taking so much curb on the exit there. It's unbelievable to me that they are not picking up any warnings there, and they're able to do it so incredibly consistently. Louis Welsh so gaining on the back end of the Aston Martin, but he is flashing. He has absolutely 0 ERS. I mean, of course, he has a little bit, and you can see on the steering wheel there, like 60% of ERS from Declan Barrett, 70%. And that is just the advantage that Declan Barrett has. Louis Welsh needs to push the Aston Martin so he burns a little bit of ERS. But another contender has joined the party. Cameron Dowds making that move past Liam Stevens. They're still side by side actually, and he's only now got that move off. Cameron Dowds up into 3rd place, and he will be the next competitor and the next rival for also Declan Barrett, but definitely also Louis Welsh. You need to not underestimate that youngster from RAG in the Haas right behind him, because he's shown some pace in the past. And Cameron Dowds, we've said it before and we'll say it again, it is a name to remember for the future in this scene, because he is so incredibly quick. He is also on very low ERS, same thing as Louis Welsh here, and there will only be 2 laps to go nearly. It's very close. Liam Stevens, though, he still has a solid amount of ERS, but he also has to worry about Nelson Alves, Drake Dempsey behind them. So it's currently the top 6 in 1 full DRS train. Thomas Liminen had to drop out of that DRS train for a little bit, but he seems to be able to secure P7 onwards. But I think it will be all eyes towards the top 6 for the final 2 laps. So I think, Alex, it will all be going down right here. There are 3 people in my eyes that could be able to win this race. It will either be Declan Barrett, Louis Welsh, or Cameron Dowds. Take it away.
Yeah, I mean, by no means disrespectfully, but I did not think Cameron Dowds would get into the DRS. But I think Liam Stevens, potentially, he was the first to pit. So maybe that tyre disadvantage potentially hindering him there, but Louis Welsh is going to be all over the back of Declan Barrett's gearbox. Declan Barrett has so much more ERS to try and defend with, but Louis Welsh is going to have the DRS, so whatever one is more powerful, we will see. Remember, Louis Welsh also with the tyre advantage going through the second sector now. He's just got to keep it clean. And I say he, I mean all of them. Declan Barrett, Louis Welsh, Cameron Dowds, they just got to keep it now. Cameron Dowds as well, also potentially looking at the win. Liam Stevens as well, I don't think there's enough time, I don't think there's enough space, but he does have a good amount of battery, so that is one thing I think is to keep in mind in terms of going for P3. But Louis Welsh, that is the guy we all want to look at. We'll have a look at the telemetry. We see the difference in battery. 25% for Louis Welsh and 70% for Declan Barrett as we head towards the penultimate corner of this race, going down the hill towards it. Sorry, not of the race, of this lap. We still have a lap to go, don't worry. But Louis Welsh is going to be all over the back. And now is going to be the time. Now is the time where he's going to want to make the move. He does switch on the ERS early, but I bet you Declan Barrett has as well. And Louis Welsh does have the DRS. He's also got the ERS, but he's not got much ERS, and he's not going to be able to do it going into this first one. But is he going to be primed for a potential overtake going into turn 4? He's got to get the exit right. But Declan Barrett has saved up so much ERS to the point where I don't know if the DRS is going to be enough for Louis Welsh. And it doesn't look like it is going to be enough for Louis Welsh. He's going to have to stay in P2 for now. He's got one more DRS zone, and he's got 2 more straights if you count going into the last corner. Bahrain is not shy of last corner overtakes, so we'll see what he's going to be able to do. But Declan Barrett has just managed the ERS so well. So he did a different strategy to Louis Welsh, but just saving the battery has proved so powerful. He's got about 25% left, 30% left to use in the rest of this lap. Louis Welsh is gonna, he's not gonna save, he is gonna use it. He's not gonna use the DRS because he knows he's got to get ahead now. He's got to try and catch up now if he wants to have any chance of getting ahead. I believe there's a little collision between Wilson Hall, and he's spun around in the background there, but we'll keep our eyes on Louis Welsh. Additionally, keep your eyes on Liam Stevens and see if any of them are going to be able to go for a move, but I don't think Louis Welsh is going to be close enough. And we are going to head to the last corner. Is Liam Stevens going to be able to do anything? I also don't think he's going to do that. So Declan Barrett is going to come around the final corner. He has coped brilliantly from any drivers behind him today. He comes around the final corner, and Declan Barrett is going to win in Bahrain. A great drive from him. Louis Welsh getting the strategy right in the end to get P2. Cameron Dowds with a lovely drive to get P3. That is going to be your podium. Liam Stevens gets P4. Nelson Alves P5. Drake Dempsey P6. Thomas Laminen P7, Bogdan Moldovan P8, Scyther from P18 on the grid gets P9 in the end. A strong drive from him. Miltos Karafalidis gets P10. Jack Humphreys unfortunately falling to P11. He did look like he was in a good position earlier in the race, but unfortunately not able to keep that. Franek Morawiak gets P12, Jane Tripkov P13, Wilson Hall P14, and Primoz Miklovic will come P15. He is quite far behind. And then Benny Fabos, Andre Lopez, Harlan Marquez are your DNFs. But what a stunning drive from Declan Barrett, fully deserved of the win. Congratulations to him. Thyman.
It is exactly what he needed to do strategy-wise, saving up that ERS perfectly and being able to anticipate exactly when and what Louis Welsh was going to do. He gave him no chance to go for that lead at any moment in the second stint. And in the first stint, he was able to perfectly position himself in the right moment to go for it. Of course, originally dropping back a few places, but absolutely flying back through the field, through those cars on all the tires. And that goes for the whole podium that we had. But Paradox Sim Racing, Declan Barrett wins in F3. His teammates, or technical esports teammates from Paradox Sim Racing, Cypher is driver of the day by the game itself. Of course, we do not always agree with that, but there you see the actual podium ceremony itself. Louis Welsh taken in second place, and in third place, of course, having Cameron Dowds. I think we had a really good race here, Alex. It showed what we wanted. Maybe a little bit of more strategy would have been more interesting. It would have been interesting to see if anyone would have taken the medium gamble earlier on. But besides that, it's been an absolutely amazing race.
Yeah, definitely superb. Shame about the soft runners not making it to the end, as you know. But yeah, as I said, a superb drive from Declan Barrett, completely deserving of the victory. There is your final race results there. Declan Barrett winning from Lou Welsh from Cameron Dowds. So yeah, a great drive, as I said, from Declan Barrett. Managed to control the race, and also when he was overtaken in the pits, got straight back past. We'll go through the race director in case anyone is needing that in the future. But yeah, what a lovely race to commentate. Definitely enjoyed that. So next week, the track next week. Hang on, let's wait for it. It's in the slideshow. Britain, Silverstone. Okay, so the race next week is Silverstone. Definitely one to look out for. Such a good track for racing. So be sure to join us next week at 7 p.m. for PSGL F3. Do you have any final words?
Not really, besides the fact that Cypher's wheel died at the end of the race and it cost him 4 seconds in the middle sector. So you're wondering what happened to him. His wheel unfortunately disconnected, and that cost him quite a little bit of time. But yeah, Declan, you still need to remember that he is actually a reserve. He is not a full-time driver in this tier, and to me, he definitely deserves a full-time spot because he has such incredible pace and he's one to watch for the future. Absolutely incredible. But besides that, I do not really have any other words.
Well, yeah, as I said, be sure to join us next week, and we'll see you then. Goodbye.
He's got the inside off, here he's through on the left hand side, hooks the apex, gets on the power nicely, and that is job done. Jarno Opmeer now to the last couple of corners now, his finest drive, his greatest drive, and he's done it at the Circuit of the Americas. He returns to the top step of the podium once again. The Gulf